How is it June already? Half the year's gone. It's halfway to Christmas or halfway from Christmas. June 2024, and here's what's going on in the Phoenix real estate market. Don't go anywhere because I'm going to break it down in a lot of different sections, and you're going to want to hear what I have to say about new construction and also some of the new rules that are going into play for realtors. And this will affect all buyers and actually sellers. Like, the world's changing. Let's talk about what's really controlling our market right now, and that's interest rates. 2 years ago, we saw the Federal Reserve hike up interest rates to slow the chaos down. And you know what? It did do that. And it gave people opportunities to buy a home that weren't otherwise available. Now, it changed the game a little bit because the rates now made it less affordable and harder to get in. But people don't realize this. With the higher rates and the slower activity, and it's not that slow, to be honest with you, we're about 80%, just shy of what our normal buyer market would be. So there's still a lot of buyers out there. Needless to say, buyers that didn't have that tons of extra money and the stomach to waive every kind of possible contingency, it is now a great opportunity for you. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So let's talk about the pulse of the market, because that really is what tells people what's going on. And here's the thing. We normally repeat, and you may see other realtors or YouTubers talk about the Cromford Market Index. And yes, they are the godfather. They are the ones that have access. They're the only ones that have access to the MLS numbers. And so they could talk exactly about trends, past sales, what's happening with pendings, actives, and things like that. But here's the thing. They are only tracking the information that's in our MLS. And I really, truly feel like the new construction has a bigger bite of our community than we've ever seen before. Again, because of the higher interest rates. So when you look at the Cromford Market Index number alone, it tells you we are in what they call a balanced market. Now, what exactly does that mean? It means this. Their math equation, and they tell you what the temperature of the market is by a number. If that number falls between 90 and 110, it tells you it is in a balanced market. If it's over 100, it's a seller's market, and the higher it goes, the stronger it is in the seller's market. And if it's below 100, it's more of a buyer's market. And the lower that number is also may dictate what the values might be doing. So when we look at today's market index, it's at 105, and we're just right at a very balanced market. And so we have three markets out here. We have the retirement community, which is very seasonal. We have the luxury community, which is not available to everyone, $3 million homes. We have more homes over $1 million sold this year than ever in the history of Arizona. Scottsdale and Paradise Valley, Fountain Hills, etc., median price 1.5. That's Scottsdale. It's higher in Fountain Hills and in Paradise Valley. So again, those purchases have continued to, if you ask me, carry some of the rest of the market. So when you look at the totality of the market being a 105, it is still a balanced market, but not in every city. Chandler and Gilbert remain to be some of the hottest markets, even through this craziness. And let me tell you, the nicest homes with the beautiful pools and the beautiful best location and kept well, they are still getting multiple offers in just a matter of a couple of days, way over list price. And again, those silly things being removed, not silly, but waiving things. So if you are a buyer and you are looking to get into a home, this is where some parts of the greater Phoenix area are very accessible. Notice I didn't say affordable, because I'll be honest with you, our prices are getting up there and they continue to rise. Actually, last month they rose just to 0.4%, which again, that's what happens when you get a balanced market. It's just a really nice, steady, number. Year over year, we're seeing about 5%. So if you bought last June, you saw a 5% appreciation, which again is good, but it's not good when the prices are really high. We don't want those prices to go up. And now with higher interest rates, it's just more expensive. But one of the things that we have seen with the few sellers that are selling out there, because I could, again, this is nationwide when I say this, people love their mortgage payments. They don't necessarily love where they live or the home that they live in, but those low monthly payments are very enticing to stay put. So there's not a lot of resale in these high demand areas. And again, that's why it becomes very competitive. But in some of the not as competitive areas, in the not competitive areas or in areas where there are a lot of builder competition, we'll talk about builders in a second, the sellers have been super agreeable to concessions. Now, depending on how much we can get in concessions, there is a lot of things that we can do. We have been helping buyers. We got a VA buyer into a home, literally out of pocket, less than $450. The seller paid all their closing costs. There was no money needed to go down payment. The only thing they paid for was the appraisal. We also have seen FHA buyers that they only need to put 3.5% down. The seller has paid their closing costs, and they had to just basically bring in the 3.5% down payment. And there is a new loan for conventional buyers. If you have good credit, again, that's why it's conventional versus FHA, and you have a lower debt to income, you can get a grant up to 3% or $15,000, or I shouldn't say 3%, not to exceed $15,000 for your down payment. So even if you don't have money set aside right now, you can get that up to $15,000. That would obviously be on a $500,000 purchase price. You can get that down payment paid for by the lender. You can get the seller to pay your closing costs, and you could potentially get into a home under $500,000 for almost no money. You got to give us a call. Good credit is required. What's good credit? Over 720. So again, there's some opportunities that are out there for people that have been waiting on the fence. Just remember though, the interest rates are what's making those monthly payments painful. I'm not going to lie. So one of the other things we do is we do try to ask the seller to give us even more than enough money to cover those closing costs and also buy down the rates. If we haven't had a conversation yet, you need to give us a call. There's a lot of great things out there for first-time home buyers and even second or third home-time buyers, or even people that are selling and maybe moving to a smaller home. So new permits have gone up. Builders are kind of liking this. Like, they had to give up a lot of their profit, but they're still making crazy profits, and their buildings, their sales have gone up 9%. So they're doing real good. Don't feel bad for the builders, but I'll tell you, that's where you can get some really good opportunities. We just locked in 2 buyers this week at 4.99% interest rate. Now, that's not on all the homes. And if you are trying to find these all online yourself, you should give us a call, because it's not really advertised on the builder sites correctly. They do this on purpose. There's always a little tiny asterisk that you can barely see, or it's just not clear really what they have going on. I think in my opinion, the builders, when 2 summers ago, when they saw everything slowing down as a result of the higher interest rates, they had to sit and think, what can we do to get buyers through the door? And that's when they said, we're going to lower our prices. We're going to take some of that profit and we're going to use the money to buy down. Now, that's also when they started really ramping up spec homes. So the idea of buying a home from a dirt phase and waiting 8 to 10 months almost was like a ghost. Like, it just honestly didn't really happen very often, except for luxury lines in 2023. Well, in 2024, I think the builders were like, you know what, let's scale back on those spec homes, and let's, because interest rates were supposed to come down this year, which they have not, because again, the job report just came out last week that we're still doing good. And so the feds have kept their numbers up. Needless to say, there is now a plethora of choices for new construction. Like I said, building permits are up, but those special, amazing rates aren't available on all the homes. So you got to give us a call. I know that people want to do all this research themselves online, but it's not what you see. Not to mention, I'm not going to blast any builders on this video, but there are builders that are, again, over-promising and under-deliver. They talk about these massive, mountain views and the community amenities, but here's the thing: if you buy in those communities right now, those things don't exist. Like a community pool, it's not there. It's going to be there in about 2 years. Here's another thing to be aware of. In some of the big master plan communities, it's called the CFD, Community Facilities District, where it's such a long story. You got to watch. Actually, there is a video that was just released on my big channel last week. You got to watch it. It's about all the inside of what builders are doing. But here's, in short, what the builders are doing. Instead of them having to pay for everything, they're passing it on in this CFD number that's added to the property taxes. So you're not asking the right question. You got to have us when you are there for your first visit. Let me tell you, the people that work in the sales office, do you think, yeah, they're nice? Of course they're nice, because they're trying to get you to sign on the dotted line without a realtor. And I'll tell you, they're not very forthcoming. Here's by law, by our real estate laws, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but real estate rules and laws, if they don't represent you, they only have to be fair and honest. Honest means they can't lie. It doesn't mean they have to be forthcoming. So that means that they're not going to tell you the inside secrets or things that have happened or what you really don't know or what's really going on with this, that, and the other. They are not there to represent you. They are there to get the deal closed, and they represent the builder, the seller. So again, don't be fooled just by kindness. That's what they've been trained to do. And it's kind of funny when you actually get to know quite a few of them, how they throw their own peers underneath the bus. Like it's a different world working with realtors, licensed realtors in builder sales centers. How's that? All right. So if you are looking for new construction, or even if you weren't looking for new construction, like let's say you were waiting for Chandler, Chandler's not going to be building any affordable homes. If you want a lower price home in the city of Chandler, you're going to be talking older, new, and definitely needs work. If you are really stuck on the whole thing, I want to have new construction, then you're going to be going outside of the city. You got to give us a call. We'll be perfectly honest with you and tell you what you can get where. And we'll also talk about what some of the things the builders are doing in a good way of where you can take advantage of some of these great rates. Now, here's the thing I really want to talk about. This comes up all the time with all the new construction is that's our water situation. Let me tell you, a couple years ago, it really like the news just they hang on a couple of words. And yes, our governor had come out and said, wait a minute, we're going to slow things down with the way we approve building permits because we're running out of water. And it was kind of I want to say a misuse of terms. We're not running out of water. In fact, the entire greater Phoenix area where there is already homes and where there are permits already pulled, we have all the water we need for over 100 years, but we don't have water to waste. So although we do have a lot of mechanisms in place, in fact, many of our reservoirs have already refilled with water. That's not to say we're not in a drought. We are in a drought. When I say we, the entire southwest part of the country is in a drought. And we do pull from the Colorado River, but only about 36%. And our state currently uses most of the water, 70% for agriculture. Now, if you ask me, there's better places to grow agriculture. And I'm not talking about consumables. I'm talking about wheat and cotton and things like that that can be grown somewhere else, and they're not going to affect food costs and things like that here locally. So if you are interested to learn about water, there's a lot of information online, and it's not as bad as everyone thinks and says that doesn't live here. So let's get to what really will affect you in the near future and long term. And that is what's going on with the National Association of Realtors and the Department of Justice. Basically, the DOJ came in and said two things. Number one, the seller can't be forced to pay a buyer agent commission. Well, they've never been forced, but again, it's all in how you say the words and how things are interpreted, right? So sellers are no longer required to pay a buyer agent fee. And as a result, the MLS systems will no longer show how much a buyer agent is being paid. We'll get back to that in a minute. Now, the other side, and how most of you are watching, from the buyer side, how is this going to affect you? Because obviously, we as buyer agents need to make a living. So the first thing that's going into play, August 17th, no buyer can actually see any home at all whatsoever with any realtor without actually signing a document. Now, there's going to be different kinds of documents, and there's going to be different compensation agreements. Now, this is where you as the buyer have to decide what works best for you. Now, We are a relocation team. We are relocation experts. We have additional training, and I've been doing this for 20 years. I myself am a transplant, have all these different types of certifications, which you have no idea what they mean, but we have the experience. We have contract negotiations. We have just the endless amounts of reviews and constantly working out their boots on the ground. And really, again, it's a huge transition. It's not just opening a door. So when you look at services like ours, like what we provide versus a realtor that might, and someone else that might like work at a pizza joint during the week and drives Uber on the weekends and does handyman side jobs and is also a licensed realtor. Do you think that that person should make the same amount of money as someone such as myself? We offer different values. We have different experiences. We have different levels of experience to deliver to you. So this is where it's going to be on the buyer now to select the right realtor that works best for them. And depending on what you need and want, it's going to be fully transparent now. So even if you go on Redfin or Zillow and you click on the button, those people, same thing. Now, do you want to sign with someone that you have no idea if they've done one transaction all year or one transaction ever in their life? Or do you want someone that has hundreds of closings every single year and constantly working with relocation buyers and really making sure that from beginning to end that you're taken care of? So again, this is going to be up to the buyers to really have these conversations with us or any other realtor that they are going to be working with. And again, this goes into a play on August 17th. Now, again, for sellers, here's the thing. If you don't pay a buyer agent fee, and I'm not saying you have to, but how many buyer agents are going to be bringing buyers to your home? And that, again, remains to be seen. So buyers today are going to be now in more control and responsible for payment of the buyer broker. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily pay for it, although it could mean that. What it means is you want to be very careful about who you work with, and you really want to assess what they bring to the table for you. If it's the listing agent you call and you want them to be your representative, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to tell you they're not being paid to represent you. Again, that's changing as well. And so now you're unrepresented. Now, some people might say, like, that's fine, I don't want to be represented. But again, that agent doesn't have to be forthcoming with you. They just have to be fair and honest. So if you are struggling with something, if there's something going on with your lender or repairs or something that came up in the inspection, let's say you got the inspection and you're like, well, I don't know what I should ask for or how I should ask for it. They're not going to advise you how to have it best represent you as the buyer. They are there to represent the seller. And let me tell you, there will be a lot of lawsuits coming up. I am sure, we all are sure, that because buyers don't understand the value of, some buyers don't understand the value of representation. So again, buyer representation, you will be signing a contract or signing that you don't have a contract, and you will be responsible for that commission. Now, we as buyer agents working with us, we will ask for your permission to allow us to negotiate that commission with the seller. We will either ask the seller to pay our commission, or we will ask the seller to give you, the buyer, concessions in order to pay for us. Either way, the money, the funding is going to come from the seller. And again, if you look at really the way the money goes in a real estate transaction and then comes back out, it's kind of six of one, half a dozen of another, and it's playing on numbers and not numbers, it's playing on words. But here's what it comes down to. It's giving the consumer choices, more disclosure, and more transparency. And when you have people such as myself and my team that really deliver a different level of value of representation versus that part-time agent or someone that just started the business or less, they just don't have the word realtor after their name. People don't realize that. If they don't have the word realtor, that means that they do not belong to the National Association of Realtors. And there's a reason they don't want to follow the rules. So it gives you now more power as a buyer to make the right decision for you. This is by far the largest purchase you're ever going to make, unless you're a multimillionaire and you're buying planes and boats and things like that. Look, a home is a huge decision and you should have the right representation. So if you'd like to speak with us a little bit more about this and get the details, we'll be glad to have a conversation about this or your real estate needs. All right, guys, hope to hear from you soon. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days, nights, or weekends, we got your back when moving to Phoenix, Arizona. We can't wait to hear from you.